Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diving welcoming you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video. And we are doing the Cutter Top 10 Canadian IndyCar drivers. Of course, wearing the Toronto IndyCar shirt and all that. So we're going to be looking at drivers from not just IndyCar, but from all across Canada. We have the top 10 Canadian drivers of all time, and that's how we're going to do it. All right, so here we go from 10 to 1. There is a partial honorable mention, and the honorable mention is Robert Wickens, because the guy is like, you heard about his massive crash at Pocono years ago, and he was paralyzed in a sense. Wickens is trying to get back into a racing car career and all that. It's like amazing what he could do. So as we take a good look at Robert Wickens in his wiki page, he competed. He's from Guelph. He took part in the Formula 2 championship and was actually second and runner-up in the GP3 series. And then went to Formula Renault. He went to IndyCar in 2018 and actually was the pole position, as in he was leading from the pack. He was first in qualifying for St. Petersburg, and then unfortunately, a violent crash at Pocono left him a paraplegic. Anyway, he is still a paraplegic, but he wants to walk on his own after 2 years because his spinal cord has actually been bruised instead of being severed. So that's just amazing. He fought in Formula Renault Champ Car, went karting through Formula 3, then Formula 2. But strange as it sounds, he didn't get an F1 ride, which was kind of stupid. And then Pocono was just massively crashed and all that in recovery. He does race with hand controls and all that, which is legal and all of that. So Robert Wickens did that. That was kind of wicked, to say the least. All right, here's number 10. Number 10 is Jacques Villeneuve Sr. Did you know there was a Jacques Villeneuve Sr.? And no, Jacques Villeneuve Sr. is not the father of Jacques Villeneuve Jr. No, he's actually the uncle of Jacques Villeneuve and actually a brother to Gilles Villeneuve. Both Jacques Jr. and Gilles will be on this list, but Jacques Villeneuve is the senior was there too. He actually had some success in snowmobile racing and sports cars, and actually won the 24 Hours of Daytona, which was shocking because that's big. You as a team have driving 24 hours at Daytona. He was versatile, respected, and he was actually involved in a major crash in the 1985 Canadian Grand Prix. Well, it was in Quebec at Sonner, and he caused a crash with Johnny Rutherford, I think it was. I can't remember. Anyway, he's there. Number 9 is Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear only won 2 IndyCar races in his career. He was a presence in North American open wheel racing in the 90s, and he is a commentator for the IndyCar circuit nowadays. But the fact of the matter is that Goodyear is known for his mistakes, his near wins in the Indy 500. In 1992, he actually had a chance to win as he was racing Al Unser Jr. But in what is now still the closest Indy 500 in history, he lost by just a fraction of a second, like 0.0014 seconds or something like that. He was close. He almost did it. And in 1995, he ended up having the lead late in the race, but unfortunately, Goodyear, anticipating Jacques Villeneuve trying to pass him in the race, actually drove ahead of the safety car pace car, before it went into the safety car, before it went into the pits, which is a big no-no, and Goodyear had to take a penalty, but he refused to take the penalty and was stopped being scored. So, yeah, he did take second in 97, but he just couldn't do anything. At number 8 is James Hinchcliffe. He also is a commentator / ambassador for IndyCar. Hinchcliffe was known for his personality and on-track talent. He won 6 times on the IndyCar circuit and actually was in actually won the pole at the 2016 Indy 500, which is amazing for a Canadian to be a pole sitter. I don't think Goodyear or Shock even did so. But yeah, Hinchcliffe was looking good and trying to become the second Canadian to win it, Indianapolis. But unfortunately, though, he failed. And he did have a massive injury in 2015 that almost ruined his career. Hinch tried his best, but couldn't win the big ones. But he's still a legend in the circuits. Number 7 is Greg Moore. What might have been if Greg Moore had not died in that accident in 1999 at Laguna Seca. Greg Moore was talented. He won 5 IndyCar races. He had a lasting impression with his speed, skill, and sportsmanship. Of course, Canadians for sportsmanship. He was a prodigy, and everyone thought he would be big in the IndyCar circuit. But unfortunately, he died in that massive accident in 1999 on the final race at Laguna Seca. He was going to be one of the best ever. Some say Greg Moore should not have raced in that event in the first place because he injured himself in a scooter accident. But the fact of the matter is that he wanted to compete, and unfortunately, it blew up in his face. But that's not to say that he took the risk and failed. Sure, he did, but he was still a legend. And a lot of people thought Greg Moore was going to be the best IndyCar driver in Canadian history. We all thought that, but unfortunately, he died. Number 6 is Patrick Carpentier, who also was a good IndyCar driver, winning 5 races there and actually took third in the IndyCar Championship and all that. But Carpentier was a prospect like Greg Moore in the Atlantic Series, which was the runner-up, which was the minor leagues of the Champ Car circuit. Champ Car, IndyCar, what do you want to call it? Nevertheless, Carpentier was known for his versatility, racecraft, and he ended up being in NASCAR for a little bit of time in the Truck Series. But yeah, Carpentier was a pretty good player. All of that in the race game. Number 5 is going to be a shock to a lot of you, but it's not me, obviously, or Bill Lang for his Formula One stuff from the Nintendo. Nevertheless, it's number 5. It's Ron Fellows. You may be thinking, who the heck is Ron Fellows? He's from the 60s? Actually, no. He's from the 90s to 2010s. You don't hear of him because he doesn't really race on the major circuits. He doesn't really race at IndyCar, NASCAR, or F1. No, he's most famous for racing in NASCAR. He does race in NASCAR, but on the road courses because not every NASCAR track is an oval or like a super speedway. There are road course events like Watkins Glen, Laguna Seca, I think it is, a lot of teams. And he liked Corvette racing. But yeah, Ron Fellows actually is more of a sports car driver than an IndyCar driver, open wheel driver. Ron Fellows has won the 24 Hours of Daytona, the 12 Hours of Sebring, and multiple Le Mans Series championships in America. So Ron Fellows is a fantastic guy. And basically, yeah. Number 4 is Alex Tangulati. With a career spanning 2 decades, Alex Tangulati has competed in kart, IndyCar, NASCAR, and sports car racing. So basically, he knows his way about open cars and stock cars. Known for his speed and adaptability, Tangulati actually won the pole in the 2011 Indy 500. That's the famous one. That was the famous one in which J.R. Hildebrand, as a rookie, almost did what Alex Rossi did and win as a rookie. Unfortunately, though, he failed because he was trying to beat a lapped car and then crash into the wall. And Dan Weldon won the Indy 500, and unfortunately, Dan Weldon lost his life months later. A lot of people said it was karma for what he did to Hildebrand. Well, that's fucking stupid. Nevertheless, Tangulati was doing pretty good, and I remember him from IndyCar. But yeah, now those were the days. Number 3 is Paul Tracy, aka the Frill from West Hill. Paul Tracy was a dominant force in the Champ Car series, winning 31 times, which is pretty impressive. And he is basically Canada's most successful open wheel driver to remain in North America because the top 2 have raced for F1. I know Lance Stroll should be on this list too because he's decent and all that, but he's definitely not there. If he was a good IndyCar driver, definitely. So yeah, Tracy was a good kart driver, like IndyCar driver. He won the 93 and 2003 race in Toronto. And anyway, Paul Tracy was a legend, two-time Canadian, two-time winner of the Mulsanne Grand Indy in Toronto, the only Canadian to do so. And he ended up with 31 career victories. So yeah, and he won the 2003 kart championship, which is pretty impressive. So a Canadian actually win an IndyCar series. Number 2 is Jacques Villeneuve. I know you'd be surprised, but yeah, Jacques is number 2. He forged his own path. Like, when I watched YouTube and watched that interview when he was an up and coming driver in 1992 at in 1992 and all that, they interviewed his mom, and his mom said, well, she was told by her mother that she could do whatever she wanted at 18, and she had a hands-off approach to Jacques, saying, well, Jacques wants to forge his own path at age 18 by racing. Why stop him? Yeah, that was what Joanne said. Anyway, Jacques would race in IndyCar and won the 1995 Indy 500 thanks to Scott Goodyear's error in judgment, although he said his team told him to stay on the track. But yeah, Jacques Villeneuve came out of nowhere to win the 95 Indy 500. And even bigger in the sense was that he won it. He was actually penalized stop and go, but got 2 laps down because of an incident in the pit row. He sped. But thanks to crashes and his own driving expertise, he got up to the lead lap, and then he was chasing Scott Goodyear for the lead and could have made Canada 1-2. But no, Goodyear had to be a prick and run past the safety car. Jacques knew what to do, and he won the race easily. He won the 95 IndyCar Championship, which meant that Formula One had their eyes on him because North American drivers were not really the best around in F1. Although Mario Andretti did win a title there. But anyway, he went to F1 in 1996 and almost won the championship in his debut season. He was close. He lost to Damon Hill on the final day. But in 97, he won the Formula One championship with Williams, thanks to the stupidity of Schumacher, which was trying to knock Jacques Villeneuve out of the race. But he knocked himself out, and Jacques ended up taking third in that final race and won the title, making one of the few drivers, not just in Canadian history, but in world history, to be an F1 and IndyCar champion and all that. Unfortunately for Villeneuve, his career would take a nosedive after 1999 when he signed with British American Racing because of a new team, because of the American culture, and Villeneuve just wasn't the same driver anymore, which was plain dumb. I would have wanted to see Jacques Villeneuve. And after all, Jacques Villeneuve is a birthday twinsy of mine. He's a birthday twinsy because his birthday is April 9th. Although it's 1970, whereas I'm April 9th, 1985, we share the same birthday, so take that and stuff it up your butt. Anyway, number 1 and finally is, who else? Gilles Villeneuve. He was iconic. He spent 5+ seasons in F1 with Ferrari. I mean, the dude was with Ferrari. I mean, Mr. Ferrari himself actually thought that Gilles would fit into the team alongside Pironi. But yeah, he did it. Gilles Villeneuve was an icon. He had an aggressive driving style, won 6 races, including the first race in Montreal on Ile Notre Dame. I mean, Montreal had it at Mount Tremblant and Mosport Park, but the Canadian Grand Prix moved to Ile Notre Dame, which was a man-made island for Expo 67, when World Expos actually meant something. But yeah, it was an amazing course and all that, and captured the imagination of fans everywhere. He won 6 races. He had that famous race for second place in 1979 in France. But yeah, Gilles probably would have been much better. But in 1982, he died at Solder in Belgium trying to pass a slow car and end up flipping. You don't really want to watch the death footage because Villeneuve Gilles does get ejected from his car at a fast rate. So, that's just brutal. It's just also brutal. But Gilles Villeneuve could have probably been the first Canadian F1 champion of all time. It would have been amazing. And then what advice he would have given Jacques if Gilles was alive and Jacques was in F1. But we'll never know, obviously. But yeah, I mean, Gilles Villeneuve is an icon, and don't you forget it. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Odoo.